Great defeaters, new and old. Welcome back to another very special episode of The Breakdown with your hosts, BaseDaKID, Tony, Pugilistboy. We are the children of the game. Tony, what you saying, man?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Yeah, enjoying a bit of the sun. I'm off from school right now, so just doing a bit of stuff at home, working out like yourself. I know you've been working out. I've finally got myself into a regular summer body pattern. So, yeah,
Oh,
feeling good.
lucky for
And
some.
yeah, I know your schedule, bro. I know you get it in. You get that work
Mm, kind of.
in.
Talk about that off camera. But yeah, let's see who's in the chat. Let's get this
Yes,
one started.
indeed. So, welcome, guys. As always, top of the morning to the guy like Muller, who's always first in the house. Big up to Hot Pies. Big up to Dan the Man's 15. Big up Danny, Fight Fan TV. Big up my local Gooner, North Bank Bren. Big up Stanley Jackson, a name I don't believe I've seen in the house before.
Looks like
Big
a
up
new one.
Roots First, another new one in the house.
Bless
Big
up.
up to Jam Down 187. What's up, everybody, and all the others?
Yo.
So,
Yeah, salute to everyone in the chat who's here from early, and salute to everyone who's going to be joining later on. Tony, you've got the list, you've got the order, so I'm going to defer to you. Let's get it cracking.
let's get in crack-a-lacking. So, as I mentioned yesterday on Monday Night Smoke, we have a lot of boxing action this weekend to cover, and we'll start at the very top at our home show in Bournemouth this weekend. We saw Chris Billam-Smith headlining in his hometown against Isaac Chamberlain, and what a fight that was. So let's have a look at some of the stills from that. What was your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it was a good fight. I mean, um, I pretty much predicted in my breakdown of it exactly how Billam-Smith would essentially get the victory in this fight. Not giving Isaac enough time to be cute, to be fancy, to sort of impose his better boxing brain and skills on him, and literally uses jab just as a way for him to double jab his way into range, to sort of hold him, push him along the ropes, trap him so that he can use his short hooks. Um, and that's pretty much his strategy. I mean, to Isaac's credit, he stayed on the inside a lot more than I thought he would, and he didn't want to be he didn't want to look weak, I suppose. So he stayed on the inside. He traded a lot more than maybe he should have. But there was also times when he pushed Billam-Smith back as well, and he clearly hurt Billam-Smith several times in the fight with some good punch selection. It was a very entertaining fight from both guys. It was just that Chamberlain unfortunately fought the fight that Billam-Smith wanted to fight and not the fight he should have fought, which is essentially what cost him the fight. Even though if it was maybe another 10, 15 seconds, potentially he could have actually got some more success in that fight with either a knockdown or potential flurry to a stoppage.
So, the fight that I'm gonna call this fight the Battle of the Jabs. If you look at, this is an interesting one. If you look at every single picture of this fight, there's a jab involved. Apart from that one, but
Okay.
essentially, this to me was a fight where the person with the more superior jab wins. And it's unfortunate because Isaac has a better jab than Billam-Smith. But what he wasn't able to do was make it work effectively. Look at that great shot. Look at that great shot. You know, but what happens is Isaac's letting his jab fall short, and Chris is reading it and coming in with the overhand right. And that's the story of the fight, really. The one issue that was kind of clear from before this fight was the inactivity for Isaac. And inactivity, I think, paid the price for Isaac Chamberlain. He wasn't, for me, fight ready. You know, you can think you're fit, you can think you're, you know, in top shape, but being fight ready is a different thing. And that's why it's important to keep having those fights, you know, ticking over, because fight ready and fitness are two different things. And quite simply, Billam-Smith was just able to dominate the proceedings because he was more attuned at fighting in the situation. He just read Isaac's jab and was able to counter. Isaac didn't throw the jab effectively because he kept dropping short with the jab and he wasn't following it up. So, you know, we're going to talk about Virgil Ortiz a bit later on. There's a guy who has a very good jab. Double jab and a right. Double jab and a right. I'm pretty certain if Isaac Chamberlain had utilized a double jab and a right straight down the pipe, he would have had far more success and would have created far more problems for Chris Billam-Smith. But Billam-Smith, you know, as since the Riakporhe fight, has gone back to the drawing board and he's reinvented himself, and he's a very good pressure fighter. You know, his last couple of fights, he's looked very good in that he does that very well. And he was basically able to pressure Isaac into a situation where, you know, he forced him to, you know, look at the damage he'd done to his to his eye, especially. Obviously, we now know that's a broken orbital bone. But he did a lot of damage, and it was all close-in damage, you know, where Isaac really didn't need to be engaging with Chris Billam-Smith in that kind of fight. He could have used his boxing capabilities and used a very good jab if he'd had more fights in the interim to know, I know that jab is on point.
I'm not sure I totally agree. I mean, look, I agree with you that inactivity is obviously a big killer, detriment, and obviously it can take you a lot longer to get into a match fitness on the flow. But to say that him being more active would have got him match fit, I disagree. Purely because if he was more active, chances are with Mick Hennessy, he's not going to be fighting the upper echelon guys, right? Probably whether that's due to money or whatever, he's not going to get those fights. So realistically, he would be winning a lot of these fights fairly early, between rounds, say 1 to 5, 1 to 6. The first half of the fight, in more time or not, he'd be winning. So that extra pressure of actually being able to get someone and sort of, you know, understands getting into the later half of the fight and what have you really got left, which is where Billam-Smith has kind of excelled, even though his gas tank isn't the greatest, but he's able to sort of manage it in that sense. Isaac wouldn't have had that same level there anyway, so he still would have been finding his way through it. So I actually think his fitness was good to begin with, because he still lasted the pace and probably handled that pace and handled that distance a lot better than Chris Billam-Smith did.
So two things I will say about this fight. This was a great fight for the public. It was very entertaining, but two guys I basically weren't great at defensive work. They were too easy to catch. And especially when I know how I've seen Isaac Chamberlain box before, you know, I've seen, you know, he's local boy, obviously. So you see him, we've seen him box, you know, and he just did, his boxing didn't come out on the night. Gas tank. Both fighters were totally gassed by now. And you know when a fight gets to that point where both guys are completely finished, but they draw upon some well deep down to get them going through to the last rounds. So I salute them both for an entertaining fight and getting through 12 grueling, hard rounds. But the engine of both fighters kind of faded by 9. And I think Isaac, specifically, because he's a fighter, I've watched over the years, I think he could have done better. Because I think had he been more active, he could have pressed home that 12th round in the 9th or 10th round and got him out maybe in round 10, 11.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say it's wrong. Everything's a hypothetical. I mean, but it's interesting take. I mean, yeah, all right.
Okay, big up to Jay Lands in the place. Big up to MUFC Now. Welcome. I've never seen you guys. Sorry, I've not seen MUFC in the house before. Says big up on yourself from the yard. Stanley Jackson makes an interesting point. I think there's a good case for a super light heavyweight division around 185 maybe.
Well, I've said this before. It's not even 185. I think they should just put back the original heavyweight limit to where the cruiser is, like a 190. Then you can do this whole, whether it's a bridgerweight or like a super cruiserweight, from like 190 to like 210, maybe 215. And then everything above 215 is like heavyweight or super heavyweight or something, because the jump between light heavy to cruiser is way too big. Because Isaac Chamberlain is basically, he's too big for light heavyweight, can't make light heavyweight, but he's eating himself to cruiserweight. There's no way he should be fighting at 200 pounds. So he's one of those unfortunate ones there. Like, he could easily make 190 if they had that as a division, and then he would be a lot more competitive, and it wouldn't be as undersized against a lot of these, sort of essential heavyweights that are just boiling themselves down. I've always said that, but they're never gonna bring that back. Although, well, to be honest, the WBC want to, because they want to bring the original limit for cruiserweight back down to 190. That's one of the only things they do that I actually do agree with.
Danny says Isaac kept relying too much on the catch counter and not leading off himself, letting CBS dictate the pace and scenery more time. So yeah, I tend to agree with that. Welcome, Untraceable Don. I missed the start and he's loving the show.
I appreciate
Jam
that.
Down says, I didn't get to see any fights this past weekend, but I'll say this about Chamberlain. He has a plan A, and when that doesn't go to plan, he reverts to plan A minus. Interesting.
It's a nice one.
Untraceable Don says, Chamberlain doesn't have brains. Stick to your game plan and have a plan B. Jam Down retorts, 2 distinctly different game plans is a bit too much for Isaac to manage. I think that's a bit unfair, but hey, we all have our opinions.
Well, I mean, if we maybe that then comes down to, again, the activity being, because he hasn't been in there enough times against opposition that's either better than him or that's supposed to be at least on his level. So that's something that you figure that out when you're in against that level of opposition, like, consistently. All right, so when this one ain't working, then this has to work, or I've got to try this. So yeah, maybe moving forward, if his level of opposition increases, then we might start seeing the plan A and plan B. But more than not, he has to get used to being comfortable in discomfort and being used to having working at a pace that isn't the pace that he's set. Because that fight was all his own, he probably would have been, a lot easier for him. But the fact that he's having to fight someone else's pace, that's where the big issue came in. And I don't think he was really conditioned to handle, going at someone else's pace and picking his angles and thinking quicker on his feet than maybe he's used to doing in his other fights. But
yeah,
we got it for next time.
Don says he should have known Chris Billam-Smith is going to try keep it in a phone booth brawl. Absolutely. Anyway, moving on, because we do have a lot to cover. next I'm going to talk about we're going to have a look at the debut of Ben Whittaker. This was super impressive. Greg O'Neill was the opponent. He got the moves like Jagger.
I mean, I think he only got hit with 2 punches the entire fight, and they were glancing shots. But as I said, like yesterday on Monday Night Smoke, the name shouldn't be the surgeon, because he's not actually that precise, and he's not like a precision puncher where he's like, obviously the shot that he landed was a peach perfect one, but he's not like a person that's just gonna break you down. He's a person that's just gonna frustrate you and walk you onto stuff that you don't see, because like he's just too elusive and too quick for you. Which is why I said that his nickname should actually be the Prophecy, because that everyone's built him up to sort of be this, like he's going to be the next big thing. He is, he's going to be that next star of British boxing and possibly even world boxing, So to me, that name just makes a lot more sense. He is almost like a prophetic type character within the sport of boxing now. But it was a very impressive debut, as you said. But we saw that first round. It was I can't say punch perfect because he didn't actually throw that many punches in it, but it was definitely hit and not get hit to perfection. And doing all the other tactics, everyone else will say, "Oh, you shouldn't showboat, he needs to cut down." No, because that's the stuff that ended up getting what he got out of his opponent in the second round, was because he frustrated and he showboated. And ultimately, as I said in the previous video, he knows who he's going to be able to do that with and who he's not. So he's not going to be trying that when he's in there for the British title or for the European or even the world. Like he might do little small moves here and there, but all of the showboating is for the lower level people. And I think people just need to kind of leave him and just let him be him and express himself, because they're either gonna, like you said, you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it, but you're gonna watch to see when is it gonna fail.
Yeah. So what am I gonna say about this guy? I've been watching boxing a long time, and I'm gonna say this: that is as impressive a debut fight as I have ever seen. It was a thing of beauty, and credit has to go out to, look, he's always boxed that way. He boxed that way in the Olympics, but credit has to go out to the team that have picked him up in the pros, Sugar Hill Stewart, making sure that he works with the natural talent that Ben has, but bringing into him some of the stuff that obviously Kronk is capable of delivering to him and making him a hit. It's interesting listening to Ben Whittaker pre-fight and listening to his influences. The fact that he admires people like Thomas Hitman Hearns. I definitely see shades of Thomas Hitman Hearn in that performance. I also look at the footwork, the way he darts under punches and then reverses, and it brings back memories of Pernell Whittaker, namesake, the Whittakers. And as Danny says, El Matador, The other Danny says, any resemblance to Prince Nassim Hamed? Why not? I mean, look, in the game of boxing, you've got stylists, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson, Aaron Pryor. One of my favorites, Hector Camacho. You look at the tassels. If you haven't seen a guy called Hector Camacho, go look him up, because there's a guy who boxed with flair. And quite clearly, I agree 100% with you. Ben is going to use that style where he can use it, but he's also going to use that Kronk style where it's going to be effective. And I simply cannot wait to see that journey. So Fight Fan has actually said similarly, he reminded me style-wise of Hearn and Mark Breland. Yeah, I could get that. And when you take out Pernell Whittaker moves, he's also dropped the Adrian Broner dance at the end. When he won, I was thoroughly entertained. Jam Down says his arrogance may well encourage showboating when the lights are at the brightest and eyes are on him. Yeah, I mean, look, you know, that is going to bring eyes to the game. You know, I mean, you've got guys like the Pauls doing their stuff, but this is what this is what I want to see. This is what creates a buzz. You know, we all had a buzz when Mike Tyson was in his pomp because of a certain style. Ben Whittaker will do likewise. So long may it continue. Yeah, I want to go back to a comment that Danny made about Chamberlain, because I did miss it because it came up right as I was moving subject. What I will say, Base, is that Chamberlain and Conor Benn, their weights maintainly in their legs, so it can look small for the weight going by their top halves.
I mean, I agree that they're lower half heavy, which is actually better than being top heavy because it gives you a stronger foundation. Hence why he wasn't getting moved about as much and everything. He was able to sort of stand his ground. But you can tell just looking at him that he's not a natural, or he's a much, he would be a lot easier at a lower weight. Even Conor Benn, if he really wanted to, could make 140. He just doesn't want to have to take that extra 7 pounds off. You can see it in his frame. And even with Chamberlain, like, for instance, okay, we even look, if you look when he was walking back to his corner, as shredded as he is, and you see the abs and everything, you can see he's actually got a belly where the abs are. Like, his belly actually comes out. So it tells you that realistically, if he actually wanted to, there's weight there that he could actually still strip back. So it's very it's easy to tell. While he carries his weight well, you can tell that he's just not a natural cruiser compared to those other men. Or if he is, he makes the weight a lot easier than they do because he doesn't have to come down as far.
Cool. All right, let's move on. The next fight I'm going to bring up some highlights of is Caroline Dubois versus Happy Daudi.
Happy Daudi, yeah.
Okay, so I'll let you talk through the action.
To be honest, there's not a huge amount to talk. I mean, Happy Daudi was nowhere near the caliber that Caroline Dubois was. I think it was just one of those fights where they thought you get a couple rounds out of her, it will make Caroline look better. She can get another stoppage because this isn't going to be a person that's going to be like elusive or having to make her work for her foods, make her work for the lunch. And that's exactly what happened. The only thing that I think Caroline did wrong in this fight was that every shot she threw was a hard shot. So with that kind of style, if you can't get these people out within sort of the first 3-4 rounds, 5 rounds, like, your gas tank is going to be on E very, very quick. So you're either going to be super economical and potentially get outworked by other opponents, or you're gonna gas out, and if someone's able to take the first half of the fight from you, can maybe like outpoint you or get you out of there late because you're now suffering. The one thing she needs to do is like slow her work down a little bit, and she needs to employ a bit more of that the Lomachenko Usyk type stuff where they'll mix up the power. Like, you don't know when the power shots is coming. Like, you can have the double jab. Maybe the first jab is really hard, but then the second one's just a tap, or vice versa. And then when you bring the backhand in, maybe you tap with the backhand the first time, and then maybe you do it again. So they think, oh, okay, I can take this. So then they relax their guard a little bit, and then all of a sudden the heavy shot comes in afterwards. They weren't expecting, bang, they're down. Don't get me wrong, what she's doing is working now, but I just think that's the way that she's going to get the most success later on down the line. It's just by being able to vary up the power, because the punch selection is great and her placement's good, and the fact she's a southpaw is a nightmare again for anyone that is not of a super world level. But I think that's just how she's going to get total success moving forward, in my opinion.
So, I want to counter what you just said. Having been a fan of Mike Tyson, who threw every punch with bad intentions, I see Caroline as a mini Mike Tyson. And you know what? How many hard hitters, real hard hitters, are there in the women's game? They're few and far between. So you know what? If she does what she does, throws punches in bunches and throws them with bad intentions, go ahead, girl. We don't know what her engine's going to be like. But what we do know is the women, they fight 2-minute rounds. They ain't fighting 3-minute rounds. Their fights are going by very quickly. So if you can maintain for 2 minutes bad intentions in every punch, let's see it. I'm about that game. I want to see that. You know, I look at somebody like Alicia Baumgardner and think she's somebody who quite often comes out and throws a lot of shots with bad intentions. Yes, she's a little bit more nuanced in her boxing style, but she's a badass puncher. And I haven't seen her gas out so far.
Who? Baumgardner?
Yeah.
She was not gassing, but she was tired in the last fight. The one where she went the distance with what was her name? Who was she in the ring with? The Argentinian girl.
Yeah.
And if you look, even in that fight, again, the difference between Baumgardner and Dubois is that Baumgardner, she's economical with her punch. She doesn't she might throw one or two a salvo, and then she goes and she takes a break. If you look at it that way, she takes a lot of breaks in her work, whereas Caroline Dubois is trying to be on you, trying to dominate from the first moment to the last. Even with Mike, if you remember, Mike always said, "I'm not it's not the power with me, it's the speed." And the way he used to throw his punches, it wasn't like he was throwing his entire body into each and every shot, which is why he was able to sort of last a bit longer. But remember, when his fight started going longer than sort of the first sort of 3-4 rounds, he had to then start being more economical with the way he was throwing his shots, because there's only so much of that natural power and stamina that you can get. So again, that style, it works, but it's just about making sure that you can sustain it. That's all I'm saying.
So Danny from Fight Fan TV, if you ain't following him, guys, please do check out Fight Fan TV live on YouTube, also on Instagram. He says, agreed, Base, she is a bit too power hungry, but I think for these opponents it works, and she knows women need TKO settings to get fans on board, especially casuals, and that's what I'm down with. I'm down with yes, go out, throw with bad intentions, take the, let's not see these 10-round, 8-round pity patties. Let's go out and see some really good, hard fought action. And then when the time comes and you're at a level where, you know what, I think she runs through this division, but when she moves up, she will have to work out slightly different game plans.
Well, as I said, I mean, again, what you said is exactly right. I'm not expecting these particular opponents they've got now to test her. Like I said, they put this girl in because you're gonna stand in front of her, and it's gonna be a slugfest. But even with this girl, she caught her a couple of times with shots that Caroline shouldn't have got hit with, but she got hit with that because number one, she didn't respect the girl like that, and number two, she was just all she was focused on was getting her out. But I'm not saying that I want her to go 8 rounds, 9 rounds, 10 rounds. I'm just saying once she learns to vary up her punch selection in terms of the power, she'll be even more dangerous because their opponents won't know what to expect. So after a while, if you get hit with enough hard shots and you've been able to, and you've got accustomed to them, they're not the same no more. Like you kind of end up being able to take them a lot better until you're really spent. Whereas if you don't know the true level of power, because every one moment one's really hard, then all of a sudden like the rest are something else, and all of a sudden another hard one comes in, your body can't adjust, and from your body can't adjust, it's a way to get you out quicker. But what's Jam Down saying? Alicia would benefit greatly from what Base just recommended for Caroline. Opponents are braced and ready for every shot, expecting something hard to land. Mixing it up would be great for both. Yeah. But again, this is not me saying that she had a bad performance. She didn't. It was very effective. I'm just saying I'm looking at her future because I know where she can go. But it's about making sure that she gets there with the right tools. And these are things you might as well start working on them now because you're going to need them when you do fight those upper level guys. Because she's not in a bad, what's she fighting? She's fighting 135, I think, at the moment. So she's fighting at lightweight. Lightweight is one of the hardest divisions because a lot of the small 140s can come down and a lot of the big 130s can go up. So so that's why she needs to, she needs to start working on these things now. But still, good performance.
Coley J, welcome into the chat. Has asked a question: who would you put her in with next? I don't know is the answer. Base.
I think a good opponent for her next would be Heather Hardy. Put her in there against someone like Heather Hardy, who's quite faded right now, to be honest, very faded, but she's still super tough. And someone like Heather will be able to make her work because Heather's never been stopped. That's one thing. And even though she hasn't got the abilities, but she's a former world champion. She's tough. And yeah, that to me would be someone that you could put her in with next and really gauge what she's going to be. That might be a slight step too far. But I think
James Douglas here was saying Heather, not healthy. I think he meant Heather is done.
I mean, she is, but I think that's a perfect type of next opponent. Someone like that. Because I don't really know too many of the journeyman women. To be honest, but if not Heather Hardy, then put her in there. If I'm not sure if she's at the right weight, but if someone can double check what weight Bet Connolly's working at the moment, someone like that, if she's happy to sort of be around that 135 range, although I'm not sure what weight she's competing at the moment, but yeah, those kind of opponents would be a good test. I think Heather Hardy would be a good one because she's a naturally smaller woman, but she can't make the lighter weights anymore, and it will be a good acid test. So, cool. That's my opinion.
All right, so we move on. Gonna show a couple of quick ones actually. These all come from the same card in Bournemouth. We start off with Fraser Clark. Yesterday on Monday Night Smoke. There are those who support him and feel that he can actually make some waves in the heavyweight division, and there are those who think he's never going to get to an elite level, so he's never going to become anything sort of beyond maybe European Commonwealth kind of levels. What's your thoughts, Base?
I'm in the latter. He's entertaining. He's good enough. Like he's a good enough heavyweight to be credible, that you can kind of put him in any type of fight, and he's not necessarily going to be 100% out of his depth, or he's not just going to get dominated and beat up over the course of a fight. But ultimately, I've seen enough of his skill set from both the amateurs and in the 2 fights that he's had as a pro against I mean, the first one was shocking, but even that one, he got hit a couple times against his very first opponent, who literally came out of the crowd on Friday to go fight on the Saturday. Bracamonte didn't need to be stopped. I can understand them saying, yeah, maybe it was too, the referee just thought it was no point carrying on, but he had a bit more left in him. He was competitive. He was hitting Frazier with enough to make him think that it's not like he hit Frazier and Frazier was just walking through his shots and like they meant nothing. That, oh wow, like okay, I'm done. Like he caused Frazier to react on a couple of occasions. So to me, there's absolutely no reason why that fight couldn't have gone on. And then you might have even seen Frazier not struggle because he was always going to win it, but he might have had to work a lot harder than he should have, and we could have seen exactly what else he had in him. But yeah, ultimately, like it was a decent enough performance. It was a good knockdown, but he's not gonna. I just don't see him being anything major in the game. And if he proves me wrong, brilliant. But I don't. He'll be lucky if he has a Chisora level career, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna co-sign everything you just said because I absolutely agree 100% with what you just said. Coley J asked a question: who would win out of Fabio Wardley and Fraser? I'm gonna go Fabio all day on that one.
Now, do you know what? Frazier will beat Fabio at this stage because remember, Fabio is still working the pro style, and Fabio is also he takes him a while to warm into fights. By that time, Frazier's got a good enough, like he starts off well enough that he'll get hit, but he'll hit Fabio as well. And we have seen Fabio look a bit shaky when I'm not saying he hasn't got a bad chin, but we've seen him distressed when he's been caught with shots by guys before. So I think at this stage Frazier would beat Fabio, but remember Fabio Wardley's a white collar guy and Frazier's had 2 cycles in the amateurs. So
yeah. So Danny asked a question: what's his record? He's 2-0. How old is he? He's 30 years old. He's born 7th of August, so his birthday's in a couple of days. He'll be 31. Is it too early to tell? As Base has said, we've got a very good history of seeing him in the amateurs and in the pros. I think yesterday, was it Lennox was mentioning about him getting cut as well.
He always gets cut in the amateurs. He got cut in about 9 different fights, I think, and 2 of them were in the Olympics. So he's definitely got all that scar tissue, which means that he could end up, if he's in there against the wrong person, one of those cuts opens up, he's going to be in big problems.
Yeah, as Jam Down says. Okay, let's move on. The next fight is Hassan Az. Move on. I don't think there's much more to say about that. Mikel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He'll either
Tony, when these ones have the videos on them, we can't hear you. Your mic gets muted instantly for the videos. So, just with regards to Azim, I saw like first round, he obviously came out, tried to get his guy out of there straight away, rushed his work. The guy was crafty enough to survive, and then sort of gave him a tough test for sort of the rest of the fight, which is what he needed. As for the Mikel Lawal, like I said, I haven't seen that fight, so not really much to say, but he done what he needed to do. Now it's time for him to have a step up. I would like to see him with Juma. I want them, if they can put Juma back in there, because that was the original fight they were supposed to have. So let's see how good he really is.
Yeah. Oh, who are they talking about Dion Juma fighting? on the weekend. Oh, I can't think. Anyway, that was that. So we'll move on again. I like that combination. That body shot was aight. It was Lawal versus Juma. Hot Pies is saying, yeah, that would be a good fight. I agree. So we'll move on because there's still a lot of action to take in. So that was pretty much the action from Bournemouth. There was lots of other fights, but we won't go through that all because there was just too many. We move up to Sunderland, where headlining was Josh Kelly against Bastida, who was a last-minute opponent. Came in, I think, week before because his original opponent, Chambers, pulled out. Did you watch this fight?
Nope, didn't see it.
You didn't need to. This was a boring fight. And Josh Kelly is gone. I mean, he's lost it to me. I mean, guys in the chat, if you watch this fight, tell me you was as bored as me. Josh Kelly tries that Philly shell and it just, you know, he's lost it to me. He has lost it completely. You know, there was so much holding. You know, if I'm not even going to say anymore, but I don't know what's happened to Josh Kelly, but he simply has lost it for me, and he's no longer relevant. That fight was awful. It was awful to watch. Mullah says it put me to sleep literally. Hot Pie says Kelly shaved his head and everything. It's over. James Douglas says he's lost his mojo. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, Fight Fan TV. Josh was holding more than John Ruiz. It's ridiculous. The amount of holding. I mean, he takes the shot and then he holds. It's just a joke. Boring boxing. Don't want to see him headline ever again. He ain't going to be relevant in boxing for very much longer if he continues fighting like that. Welcome, Declan, into the chat.
What's up, Declan?
So we're going to move on. On the same bill was Harlem Eubank. And he came up against Elliot Chavez. Harlem looks good. He is developing into a very good boxer puncher. He hits again. You know, he works well. He's got a good armory. You know, decent defense. But this one was an interesting fight. The guy he was fighting, after getting beat up for a few rounds, just decided, you know what? I'm just gonna start hitting him every time the referee calls break. And what happens is, the referee called break, and Chavez hits Harlem with 2 hard shots, and it drops him. And I kind of went, it was so strange. It just seemed like the shots weren't the type of shots that should drop him, but he did go down, and the referee just had enough. He just said, look, disqualification. It was awful.
From what I heard, let me sort of address this real quick because I haven't seen that fight. I didn't even see the knockdown part. I know it's been put in chat, I just haven't had a chance. But from what I heard, the majority of that issue is the fact that the referee basically done a bad job of not being close enough to the action. So when he's calling break basically from like the other side of the ring. And yeah, you're supposed to always protect yourself at all times, but realistically, if the ref was in there, like breaking it up like you're supposed to when you call break or being close enough to the action, probably a lot of those shots wouldn't have happened. Now, that being said, maybe it's interesting the fact that maybe his chin isn't as solid as his brother's or his dad's. Now, he was obviously hit unawares and wasn't braced for those shots, but they never went down.
Cool. Coley J says it right though. Protect yourself at all times.
Which is what I said.
We all
It's
remember.
very true. No, I agree. But that being said, the referee's job is to break it up. So he shouldn't
Yeah.
have been as far away from it, because even in those pictures I
Well,
saw.
look. A referee doesn't have to be on the top, on the toes of the fighters. You know, a good referee can manage a fight from a distance, and I think Steve Willis is one of the best at doing this. He watches from a distance, yeah, and he
But when
uses
he
his
calls
voice to
break,
manage
but
the
when he
fight.
calls break, he gets in the middle.
I know that, but you know, you should be able to control a fight with your voice, and then obviously when a clinch becomes too much, it's taking too long for them to break, you intervene. Yeah. But I'm not going to labor on about the referee.
Yeah, sorry, I
Because it's a
meant
non-talking
Harlem.
point.
Yeah,
But
I was.
Harlem,
He's a cousin. Yeah, I didn't mean it. Yeah, cousin is what I meant. But yeah.
yeah. Harlem looks very decent. Is he heavy enough for Connor? Harlem hit the floor on purpose because the ref weren't doing nothing for so long. So Harlem just thought, I'm going to hit the deck, so surely he'll get the point off, but ended up getting a DQ win. Yeah, I kind of was thinking that it was a deliberate drop, because it didn't look like the kind of punch that you should drop from, but it did kind of worry me at the same time to think, has he actually been hurt? I think with foreign fighters, the refs need to learn to break in other language too. The thing with that, Mullah, is all fighters recognize instructions in English. So no matter where you go in the world, you can go to pretty much most places, with the exception of maybe the Spanish-speaking countries. They will give you instructions in English.
I know they do in Japan.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on. So we move away from that fight card. We move across the ocean to the big fight card on PBC, Premier Boxing, which was headlined by Danny Garcia fighting Jose Benavidez. Bit of that. Did you see that fight? Yeah.
Yeah, saw that.
Okay, so you can talk over the stills that I've taken here.
I mean, this was actually a pretty good performance for Danny Garcia, who's been extremely inactive over the last 4.5 years, 5 years. I think he's had 2 fights in like the last 5 years, near enough. He was good he was on his toes quite a bit. He was moving around the ring, but to be fair, that's not necessarily that hard to do against a guy that's really only got 1.5 legs. Those who know. But the telling thing for me in this fight was the fact that Danny had absolutely no power to trouble Jose at 154, which tells me that this weight division is not the right weight division for him. He, against anyone with any sort of ambition to win, because there has been rumors maybe Jose wasn't that ambitious to win for whatever reason. Like, Danny gets schooled and Danny gets hurt. Like, Tony Harrison was saying that he would like to take that fight next. Even this version of Tony, who's, you know, more faded than previous, like, he beats the brakes off of Danny Garcia. Too quick, too slick, and obviously he's got a shot on him as well. Danny's shots didn't show much. He didn't show much power. His body, you can tell that he's basically just doesn't want to make weight for 147, which is what I said to someone months ago regarding Garcia. He's only moving up there so that because he's being lazy and because he doesn't want to have conversations about fighting Boots and Virgil and the rest of the 147 guys. So you move up there, that immediately takes you out of those conversations. He's all he's gonna do while he's up there, if he doesn't fight Tony House, he's just gonna fight other 140 or 147 pounders that are just gonna go up and basically not cut weight. So like I said, it was a good performance technically. His dad was giving him good instructions in the ring, but ultimately it's a performance. It's a nothing performance because it's not going to lead to anything. Even a hope to maybe picking up a vacant title if Charlo decides to vacate them. Like, in the middle or the end of next year or something. He won't even probably pick those up because of whoever else is on the list that he'll have to fight as a mandatory. But yeah, like as an actual fight, it was okay, but it was a nothing fight, so it wasn't really anything special.
Okay, so yeah, like yourself, I found the fight pretty entertaining. Against the man with 1.5 legs. Jose Benavidez is, to me, now becoming a gatekeeper. He's cannon fodder. He's no longer relevant in that division. But one thing I do want to talk about is what Danny has written down in the comments below, because you'll notice I did put up on the last picture the scoring. This was a majority decision. It's absolutely outrageous. I mean, bearing in mind they're fighting in Danny Garcia's back garden. Yeah, he fights all the time in New York, and I just couldn't understand it. It was like,
but I've got a theory on that. Because I personally gave Jose 2 rounds, and both of those rounds I still could have gave them both to Danny. I just felt he in those rounds had not even so much the eye catching, but they looked like the shots that he landed were a bit more effective, or they visibly troubled Danny, and he had to back off. Because every time Danny hit Benavidez never backed off. But anytime that Benavidez hit him, he visibly got on his bike and moved away from the power. So I gave him 2 rounds. For him to get a draw on one card and then get 3 rounds and then 4 rounds on the others, I think what they were trying to do was basically make it viable for Jose Benavidez to come out again against someone else. I think they was always. I think they knew Danny was going to win, but they need to obviously keep it credible enough so that Jose can get another fight against someone else that they can make a legitimate, like, not necessarily it's going to be a pay-per-view, but they can make a legitimate opponent out of him rather than getting scored for 12 rounds. That's what I think it was. In my opinion, I think it was all about corruption and optics.
Okay, corruption, definitely. I don't even see how making that fight a 114 benefits Jose Benavidez. I don't see it. I mean, you just,
because it will say look, on one card.
The world will look at the fight. Yeah, nobody's gonna look at that card and go, "Oh, Jose Benavidez really gave Danny Garcia a hard fight." No, he didn't.
But the casuals will.
No.
Remember the people. No, Tony.
Fight,
we watch fights differently than other people, right? Imagine someone that's never watched that fight.
I can't believe anybody could watch that fight.
That's your problem. You're thinking about people that have watched the fight. Forget who's watching. If you run that narrative, he ran Danny Garcia close, and then they put up the scorecards against casuals. When his next fight comes up or against another top or more senior opponent, it's going to look more credible to them. They're going to be more interested because they're not going to bother go back and watch that fight now. They're going to read the reports. Yeah, that's the problem. You're thinking from someone that's actually watched the fight and has a critical eye. Casuals ain't got time for that.
Well, casuals don't give a damn about scorecards.
If someone tells them it was a close fight because he got a draw on one card,
say that? Who in the hell is going to say that?
They'll say it in the promotion.
Nah.
I'm right.
If you're promoting Jose Benavidez' next fight and you say he was in a close fight with Danny Garcia, I'm going to say, what a load of tosh.
That's you. Again, you're thinking you're not thinking about what everyone else outside of us specialists are looking at. Even myself. I remember, how many fights did you say we was going to be looking at? 13 fights or whatever. What did I say to you? I ain't watched that many fights. What's my name? The hardcore casual. Yes, I know more than the regular casual, but I'm not watching everything. So sometimes you might be able to fumble and bamboozle me with a certain with a certain headline or a conversation if I haven't got the energy to go and look for it. So
okay, well let's move
I'm telling you.
Danny says the other two scorecards in Garcia's favor were also still too close. That shows the level of domination that Danny Garcia had over Jose Benavidez. Fightman said, Jose is not David. Since the gunshot has finished, man, Bud Crawford beat a man with one leg. And he also says, as messed up, as stupid as it sounds, Base is actually right. So, yeah, he agrees with you. Danny says, I'm stealing that title for myself, Base. I'm also a hardcore casual. Okay, so yeah, that's that fight. You know, anyone who saw that fight saw Danny Garcia dominate a one-legged Jose Benavidez, and the scorecards were too close, and definitely there was no chance that should have been scored a draw. Jam Down says, guys, I know boxing news isn't the usual format of the show, but what do you make of the decision to make Canelo Triple G a $9.99 UK pay-per-view? I think I addressed this with Mano a Mano last week, and I'll address this issue right now while it's fresh. The Zone are trying to make money. At the end of the day, what you have to ask yourself is, you pay what used to be $7.99 a month, which now moves up to $9.99 a month. But if you take the yearly subscription of £79, it's still $7.99 a month.
When is it going to move up to $9.99?
It's moving up, bro.
When?
Soon.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you're, as I said, if you're on a month, if you're paying monthly, you can effectively pay a yearly subscription and say, paying £79 in a one-off, and then you get $7.99.
So they're making it like the American model.
So, what I was saying is, basically, for $9.99 a month, bearing in mind how much boxing content you get for the year. If I have to pay $9.99 for one fight, I'm not too worried. 2 or 3 fights, I'm not too worried. It would be if I was paying for 6, 7 fights a year, I would be worried. But you know what? I still feel that $9.99 is still good value for money. What you've got to consider is, in America, that's $69. And you're still going to pay your subscription monthly. I don't know how they get away with it in America. I seriously don't know how they get away with it. But we obviously get a much better deal than they do in America. I ain't going to complain, because even although it's an additional cost to the monthly cost I would pay for the Zone, I still feel through the year I'm going to get value for money. I was saying to Maestro, Box Nation is still on. I still watch boxing on Box Nation. Yeah? And don't forget, Box Nation was the precursor to the Zone, a dedicated fight channel that you paid a monthly subscription, and you got boxing all time of day, night and day, from amateurs to professionals and everything in
Box
between.
Nation is free now.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as I'm concerned, as a boxing fan, I still feel that, look, how much is Premier League football?
Huh?
£30 a month for Premier League football?
What, on Sky?
On Sky and BT?
I've got it on both of my package, so I don't know.
So overall, you're paying a minimum of £30. Yeah? And think about your content. Am I complaining about the content I get with football? And I get some dry up games. I barely watch football.
But guess what? There's no pay-per-view on football, though.
Sorry?
There's no pay-per-view on football, so whatever's on your subscription is on your subscription. How much
you're going to pay for football by the end of the year. Because if you paid £100 for boxing, yeah, and you think of the content, football, you'd have paid £300.
But you get more of it.
Football ain't on all of the year. It's only a 6-month sport.
Yeah, but even after that, you get friendlies, you've got international football. You can actually watch football all year round if you really want to, and you can get up to like 9, 10 different
you ain't getting the
matches.
World Cup. You ain't getting Euros.
They're on there.
No, they ain't, bro.
They are.
No, the Euros and the World Cup are on BBC, bro.
No, they're also there's matches that will also be on Sky and on BT
BT
Sport. I've
Sport.
seen it.
Qualifiers.
There will be some matches as well. But
No,
even outside of that,
I don't give a damn about qualifiers. I know that the championship, the real football, because who cares about Liechtenstein versus Kazakhstan? Me no business about them game. Me know France, Germany in the final of Euros, whatever, is on BBC, bro, for free. On me TV license money, £10 or whatever it is. Yeah.
I mean,
So
all that.
you support Arsenal. Anyway, let's move on.
No. You can't give your answer and then not. No, you
Okay,
don't
go
move
ahead.
on before then.
Go ahead.
Right. Okay. Now I'm gonna be a lot shorter than you because you was rambling there. Right. With regards to the zone thing, I think it's rude, and I'll tell you why it's rude. It's because they didn't. Basically, they came out initially and said that we're not paying for Canelo Golovkin 3, right? They came out and said that. So to now, after whatever reason, decide that, oh, now we're actually going to charge you 19, it was £18 if you haven't got a subscription or £10 if you do. To me, that is a bit rude because it's like, well, you didn't tell people this was going to be the case to start with. And if we look at it, since they've launched like the Zone pay-per-view, there's now actually 3 pay-per-views in the space of 4 months because you had Canelo against Bivol. You don't forget we've got KSI against Wasabi. Yes, we might not be watching it, but that's still a DAZN pay-per-view. And then the following month, you've now got Triple G and Canelo. That's probably the reason why they didn't go as hard as they probably wanted to for the AJ Usyk fight, because they couldn't justify putting on 2 pay-per-views in the same month, knowing they also got another one coming the month after. So with all of that, like, yeah, I think it is a bit rude. Like, did we have to pay for? I think we may have had to pay Canelo against Plant on BT when they had that. I think so. So, but this one is like it's 4 or 5 in the morning. You told us we was getting as a part of our normal subscription. Now you're telling us we got to pay for it. It's a slippery slope because there's already people that are looking to cut their DAZN memberships, because if you look at the content on DAZN over the last month, even the last month and a half, there actually hasn't been that many shows. There's 2 shows in the whole. There's 1 show in the actual in August, which is the next gen card. You got the next gen card. You've got the Ortiz card as well. So you got this weekend coming up. I think that's it until next month. There might be one other one, but there hasn't been there hasn't been as many shows coming out recently from Golden Boy and Matchroom. You got your your monthly subscription, and now any chance they're getting for pay-per-view, they're gonna do it. And from Eddie's already said that they're gonna what's it called? If Eubank and Ben happens, that's also gonna be pay-per-view, even though none of those guys are proven at any justifiable level right now to actually command pay-per-view. It's going to be a gimmick traded off of their dads. I think it is wrong. It's alienating people, and I know quite a few people that have cancelled their subscriptions. Now, yeah, I'm going to purchase it because I want to see that fight. But imagine, say for instance, I've had a bit of money issues recently, and all of a sudden now you're telling me that this thing that I thought, okay, well, I've already paid for my subscription, it's already there. Now I've got to try and find another £10 from somewhere when I ain't got that kind of money. I think, yeah, I think it's bad, and Markowski is noticeably avoiding a lot of the content and conversation on Twitter when people are asking him, well, why has this happened? Like, you need to explain it. He's not giving answers. So yeah, that's my take on it. Yes, I'm gonna pay for it, but it is rude of them of what they've done, and I don't agree with it personally.
So, obviously, there's been some comments in the chat. There are some people who are quite happy to pay. Hot Pie says he's happy to pay. Marcus, Guy Sports is more than football, though, to be fair. Marcus also says you're wrong, Base. Marcus says not going to be happy if it's over 20 per pay-per-view on top. To make that point, because he actually insinuated that the Cinnamon Triple G fight would be part of the package. 5 a.m. UK pay-per-views has poor viewership. The timings issue is a non-starter for me, because I would pay pay-per-view to watch Floyd Mayweather. How many Floyd pay-per-views were there that you had to pay and watch it at 5 a.m. in the morning? So that's a non-starter. If you start coming out with that argument, you're talking
No, because the
rubbish.
only one we had to pay for was Conor McGregor. That's it. All the others were free.
Pacquiao?
That was free over here as well. Actually, okay, maybe that one.
No.
I can't remember. I don't remember paying for it.
For that.
Maybe okay, if we paid for those, just those two.
Okay.
All the others were free.
Okay. I mean, boxing is a worldwide sport. We know we have to wait up till 5 o'clock to watch fights in Vegas. We have to wait till whatever an hour it is in the daytime for fights in Australia, or get up early.
That's in the morning. That's 10 o'clock for us.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the point is, as fans of a global product, we're gonna watch it at whatever time it is. And if we don't want to watch it when it is, we'll watch the replay in the afternoon the following day. Everyone has that choice. You don't have to watch Triple G at 5 a.m. in the morning, but you have to pay to watch it. Yeah? You will watch it the next day at 12 p.m. in the afternoon if that's the way you want to do it. But
No, you know why you won't? You know why you won't? Because at that point, it's going to be spoiled for you. Chances are you're gonna know that result before you've watched the fight. That's the whole point of the pay-per-view, is to watch it when everyone else is watching it. Otherwise, there's no point paying. So they won't. They'll just get the result, then they'll find a copy of it somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, look, you pick your poison. You can buy Sky, you can buy BT, you can buy The Zone, you can, invest in IPTV. You pick your poison. There's people who've got Fight TV. How much is it to pay Fight TV? You consider how many fights come on Fight TV in a year and the quality of them fights. Yeah? And then to ask yourself the question, is The Zone really ripping you off?
Yeah, but the Fight TV app itself is free. You choose what fights you want to buy.
Yeah, but you still have to buy them.
Well, you don't have to do anything. That's the point. You don't.
Are you?
Huh?
You ain't getting free boxing on Fight TV.
There is some stuff on there is free, but generally speaking, yeah, you purchase them, but you choose if you want to purchase them or not.
Yeah.
Now, but with the Zone, they didn't come in with the market of, oh, well, we'll give you a free app and then you choose what you want to pay for. They gave us your subscription and said that you will get everything in your monthly subscription. Now they've turned that around and lied to us. Over here, if it was America, it's different, because again, their prime time is different to ours. So us having to pay for something that comes on at 5 in the morning that we have to then either stay up for or wake up early for is a lot different than them getting it at their prime time hours, regardless of their pricing, which is a whole different story. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Last fight. No, there's 2 more fights to go from the was it the Barclays Center?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Barclays Center. So the next one I'm gonna run up with is Gary Antoine Russell against Rences Barthelemy. Now, this was I can't say too much about this, to be honest. I only watched the highlights. I didn't watch the whole fight.
No, it was a good test for Antoine Russell. He got hurt a couple times in the fight. Rances was he was switching quite a bit in there. He looks very awkward in sort of the way he throws his shots, but somehow they seem to be effective. And obviously, Antoine Russell's very small, so he was having to work to kind of get his way onto the inside. But it was a competitive fight. He was sort of winning just by more activity and punch placement, but he wasn't having it all his own way. Ultimately, he caught Rances with a very heavy peach of a shot, which took him and knocked him down. But then again, we had shenanigans from a ref when the guy got up. He was totally fine, walking around, didn't stumble, didn't wobble. He was competitive in the fight. It's not like he was getting beat up for 6 rounds and the rest said, "No, you've had too much." Like it was competitive. He didn't even take that much shots in the fight. And then lo and behold, the ref just decides to wave it off, like he's either got somewhere to be or he's been told to preserve an undefeated and a knockout streak. It was another case of corruption or ineptitude.
Yeah, I agree. As Danny says, what was the ref thinking? So yeah, Russell gets the win. He moves on. We move on to the next and last fight. No, it's not the last fight.
Should be.
So last fight that I'm going to be talking about from last weekend, but then we get into next weekend's fights. So Danny says Russell was robbed of a chance to test himself. Yeah, you could say that. I agree. So the last fight we can have a look at was Adam Kownacki against Demirezen. Talk to us about this, Base.
It was a fun fight. Kownacki, unfortunately, is washed at this point. He started off fairly well. It looks like he no longer has any punch resistance. He also doesn't seem to have any punching power left because, don't get me wrong, Demirezen is actually quite tough and can take a good shot, and he tucks up well and he's got a decent guard. But there's absolutely no way that someone that throws the amount of punches that Kownacki does and hits his opponent with that amount of punches should have been able to he shouldn't have really been able to go the distance, let alone beat him. So he's got he says he wants to have one more just because he doesn't want to lose, he doesn't want to go out on a loss, but pretty much his career is done for now. But Demirezen is actually a very credible guy, and I was one of the only few people that was giving him good odds when he was fighting FA Jagba. Everyone thought he's going to get taken out. I'm like, no, this guy's decent. And to be fair, it was a close fight. I think it's only because the Jagba was the golden boy that he actually got that decision, because Demirezen kind of, he put it on him. At the time, of course.
So glad you found your light finally.
No, I had to find it. No, I had to find a light to turn on because obviously, sunset. I haven't got enough natural light, and I don't use my spotlight anymore. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what you said. In that, for me, Demirezen is a legitimately strong, tough Eastern European fighter. He's one of them guys, like Makhmudov. They're hard to get out of there. And I give credit to Kownacki. He was in the fight, but he just couldn't knock this guy out of his stride. He's hitting the guy, but the guy's he's not faltering. He's not moving backwards. He's just constantly coming forward and getting off his shots. And you kind of go, Kownacki just run out of game plan. He's like, you know what? I've thrown everything I've got. he didn't really gas himself. He kind of just kept throwing, but it's one of them, you know. I can't beat this guy. I could have hit this guy for 20, 30 rounds. This guy would still be coming at me. And we know there are guys out there like that, Triple G, who just have impregnable chin.
I think it's this version of Kownacki. If you put Chisora, I'm even gonna say if Chisora was in there against someone like Demirezen at this point.
Sorry, Turkish. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Turkish. I reckon that he would have knocked him down at least once in that fight if hitting him the amount of times he got hit. Because remember, the guy, while he tucks up, it's not like he moves or he doesn't slip anything. Everything is either on the gloves or he takes a shot. And someone with more of a punch in them would have taken him down at least, pardon me, at least once by the end of that fight. So I just think Kownacki overall is just shot, like maybe trying to lose the weight, or because he's lost quite a bit of weight since like his last fight and the fight before that. Maybe like now he hasn't got the same snap in the punches. He's shot worn. So yeah, he's probably just not holding up as much. So like I said, I think he's an also run. If he stays in, he's literally just gonna be a guy that gets beat up now by the upstarts.
So yeah, I agree with you. I believe in answer to Danny's question, should Kownacki hang up the gloves? No. I mean, you know, he's a legitimate good heavyweight. He's always gonna be in a fight. And I think, you know what, if Derek Chisora can continue fighting despite having 12 losses on his career and be competitive in every fight he's in, then so should Kownacki.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to do that. He already said. He already said, "I just want to go out on a win."
Yeah,
he said. I got one more.
Yeah, and fair play to him for having common sense to say that to himself, because we know way too many fighters carry on fighting and just keep getting losses, and even although they're not relevant in the game, they just hang around. So well done for Adam Kownacki for saying that, but you know, I've enjoyed him being in the game. I think he's been in some cracking fights, and he's been a respectable and good boxer in the game.
Now, Kownacki has been the poster child for bad decisions. That's what Kownacki has been. Turning down a $7 million AJ fight to go and fight for 150 grand against Chris Arreola. Turning down a $1 million fight against Derek Chisora to fight for 100 grand against Demirezen and then lose. Like whoever his managers are, they should be strung up somewhere, because you can't. I know those PBC contracts are mad strong, but there's no way you should have been able to allow someone to take those opportunities away from you to fight for chump change and then get beat. Like, it's mad.
Okay, so that concludes our business. Bafor Awusu says Deontay Wilder should fight Demirezen. That would be a good comeback fight. I agree. Muller Miller says Danny Williams still out here losing. Danny Williams is now retired. Muller. He should fight Coffee for his last fight. Anyway, let's move on. Sunfami Dan says, what do we make of the racist comments from Shields towards Marshall? I have no idea what he's talking about.
They weren't racist, but the problem is
because black people can't be racist to white people.
Well, we're not going to get into that on the show. We're not going to do that. But what I will say is the problem is Clarissa Shields is American. In America, everything is racialized. Everything is tribal. It's about it literally is black and white. But the way that they say certain things translates fine over there, but because English white people over here don't understand the rhetoric because they're not from that same culture, to them it seems weird. What she said was, that basically Marshall wishes that she had like the gold medals, and she wishes she had the belts that she has, and she's like, damn, she even wishes she was black like me. That's what she said. Now, it's not a racist comment, but again, over here, the first thing they're saying is, oh, well, why have you got to bring race into it? What's race got to do with anything? So, it's been taken out of context by people that want to make an agenda out of it, but it's a comment that a black person over here wouldn't have said, because we understand what people are like over here. Whereas in America, that's the rhetoric, that's the talk that they have. The problem with Savannah, with Clarissa, and a lot of the other Black American fighters that come over is they don't take the time to understand their market. So they'll say things that are all cool on that side of the planet, but then when you come over here, it's an uproar. Like, for instance, you might get people in a press conference running with the N word, and in America, cool. But over here, like, what's going on? Like, why would you do that? Like, why, can't you be professional? It's a whole different culture, but they're ignorant to the other culture, and they don't have the time to, or they don't want to make the time to understand the market that they're trying to appeal to. And that's one of the reasons why I've always said Clarissa Shields is not marketable and she's not liked, because she doesn't know how to basically work the rooms that she's in. She thinks she should be handed everything because of her talent, and like she shouldn't have to work as hard as she's working for things. But ultimately, these are the kind of reasons why she's never gonna get the platform she feels that she really deserves.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my take. It's like it wasn't a racist comment, but I knew it instantly once I read it what I was gonna see when I looked at the replies. I just knew, oh, why are you making it about race? If it was a white person that said it the other way, it's gonna be, and I knew that was coming. Like, they just want a reason to be able to basically say just things back. But anyway, let's move on.
Cool. So moving on. As I said, we got a lot of stuff to cover today. So without further delay, let's get quickly into the upcoming action coming up this weekend. We have Dalton Smith headlining for the vacant British super lightweight title. Any thoughts on who you think who will win this fight?
Dalton Smith's gonna win that.
I agree. Farias against Sandy Ryan, the rematch.
Haven't thought enough about it, but I need to watch the first fight again. But I actually think that this time, Sandy Ryan's she's going to right the wrongs of the first fight and potentially be the first person to stop Erica Farias. But there's also an equal chance that she could end up getting herself outworked again. But I think that she learned. I need to, like I said, I need to watch the first fight again. But I think I'm gonna go with Ryan to right the wrongs.
So, guys, for those of you who don't follow BaseDaKID, jump all over his socials on his YouTube channel, which is BaseDaKID, the hardcore casual. He will do Friday picks, his weekend picks, and he'll probably break down this fight a little bit more, having seen some of the stuff that he's commented about now. Just want to give a shout out to Jordan Thompson, also on that card, fighting for the IBF European Cruiserweight title. Jordan is someone that is on our radar because of a closer knowledge with October Red. And he looks pretty good. If you haven't seen him, guys, he would be worth checking out on this weekend's card. Very good cruiserweight, and may, in fact, at some point be part of that argument around the likes of Billam-Smith, Chamberlain, Riakporhe, and of course Akoli. With some of the champions in that division, it could easily be seen that someone like him could find himself viable as an option for a world title. Any thoughts on that, Base?
Um, no, I think it's going to be a. I think he'll win, but I don't know sort of what's next for him. As a cruiserweight, I mean, I guess at this point, realistically, he needs to move over to Sky because that's where every other cruiserweight is at this point. Apart from Macaulay, who looks like he's going to end up over there anyway, so he'll literally
Yeah.
be fighting Polish fighters and maybe Germans and like there's no one. There's not going to be anyone for him to fight.
Yeah.
So I don't know where he kind of goes from there. But yeah, I
But there
think
are
I
other
expect.
champions. That's what you got to consider. There are other champions out there. So
Yeah, but all those champions are going to get picked off by Boxer.
mm,
Riakpor's
hopefully,
already said he wants Makabu. Chances are Billam-Smith's probably got if he sticks over there, he's gonna try probably get Gulamarian. You've got a Coley, like I said, who's gone over there.
mm,
Who's the IBF? Opataya, he's not fighting again until at least sort of March next year.
next year, yeah.
So like and realistically, Jordan Thompson, even if he has 3 fights between now and then, is not going to be ready for Opataya. So
Mm.
there's no champions for him to fight, and there's no domestics for him to fight on the zone. So realistically, as much as I like it, he might end up having to move over.
Well, I think you're being a little bit pessimistic about the chances of the zone and Boxer doing business. We've seen it before. They've done business before. Why would you not expect that one or the other network would allow their fighter to go and take a world title or significant title shot on another network?
What business have they done?
All right, you got me.
Like, I mean, it might be a little easier to do than working with Frank.
I want to be optimistic. I mean, the thing is, I say that because I know matchroom fighters have fought on other networks. Simple as that.
But again, that's just my point. So Jordan is going to end up on Sky and Boxer, even if he stays with Matchroom, because he's
Okay.
not going to get the fight on his platform.
Mm. Okay. Also, this weekend sees the return. Not many people know about it, of Mickey Conlan, Irish Mickey Conlan. He's fighting Mariaga in the SSE Arena in Belfast. Be interested to see Conlan's return after his absolutely amazing fight of the year with Lee Wood. So, yeah, any thoughts on that, Base?
Not particularly, but if I remember, I will watch the fight. Where is it being broadcast?
It doesn't
Conlan
say.
Boxing. Yeah, that might end up on Fight TV. I'll have to take a look. If I can find it for free, I'll watch it. If I can't, I think I got something I'm doing that day anyway, so I'm not going to be making any undue time for boxing.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. And then that leads us into the big card of the weekend, which is coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas. Do you know who fought in from Fort Worth, Texas?
Who?
Donald the Cobra Curry.
Nice. Well, you know, this card's a pretty good card.
This card is good.
Marlon
So
Esparza against Eva Guzman is not. Huh?
All them people complaining about the zone.
Yeah, but this is like one card in the month.
Oh, come on, bro. This is a good card. This ain't the only card they had. They were supposed to have Jake Paul and Serrano. That was supposed to happen.
Yeah, but guess what? Is it happening?
No, it's not. But whose fault is that? That ain't the zone's fault, is it?
It's not, but that's still content that we now don't have. But that also that same fight would have been on in conjunction with this one. It would have been clashing.
But you still would have got both.
Again, but that's one night though. So then what about for the rest of the month? What have we got?
All right.
Anyway, forget that. Let's talk about the card. It's a very good card. It is a good card. Marlon Esparza versus Eva Guzman isn't necessarily. I feel like Esparza could end up getting gift decisions again in that fight. But my fight of the night, you know what fight I'm looking forward to? Mo Hooker, Blair Cobbs.
Blair.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Flair.
That's right. I want to see some woos, and that's gonna be my fight.
That's going to be an exciting fight, definitely. Has Hooker recovered from his elbow?
It was his wrist, I think,
Was
and
it
then
his
I
wrist?
think he
I
had a
thought it was the
shoulder
elbow.
afterwards. But
Okay.
well, he must have now because he's in a fight.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's gonna have the same pop because obviously, like he snapped the wrist the last time, so maybe he won't want to throw it as hard. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I think I definitely think that's gonna be fight of the night. And if I was them, I would make that the. Actually, they're probably smart based on the order. It looks like they've got it as the third. That might be smart because Ortiz and McKinson's not gonna be like a highly entertaining fight. It might be very good tactically, but you don't want it to get outshined by like an action-packed fight. And Esparza and Guzman is not gonna be action-packed.
Okay.
That's gonna be a pot shotty type fight.
Yeah.
So the placement might be right.
Hot Pies is looking forward to this one. He's a fan of the Flair, clearly.
I told you, man, everyone's a fan of Blair the Flair Cobbs. He's entertainment. That's what we want.
Definitely. So let's talk about the main event. Virgil Ortiz Jr. coming back from being out of the ring for a year. The unbeaten knockout king returning. We thought he wasn't going to get back down to 147, but he is fighting the problem, the southpaw, Michael McKinson from Pompey. How do you see this one?
Again, without going too much into detail, there's no point even really saving the take for the weekend. Like Ortiz is gonna steamroll him. McKinson is gonna be tricky. He's obviously got enough of a shot that you're not just gonna try and walk him down without being defensive. But Ortiz is just way too big naturally. Plus, he's a good boxer. Plus, he's got power and punch placement. And I just feel like he's gonna outdog him. He's just gonna outdog him, and he's gonna just get to him and work. He's just gonna outwork him and eventually take him out, sort of mid to late rounds, in my opinion. So I expect it to be over within 9.
Okay, wow. I think I'm gonna have to go with your assessment. I mean, Virgil Ortiz, if he comes back anything like what we've seen in the past, his hand speed alone is going to be a problem for McKinson. And I know McKinson, obviously that great win over Chris Congo, he's got some good victories, but Ortiz is different level. Ortiz is viably top 5 in the welterweight division. So, look, good luck to Michael McKinson, local boy, going out, trying to do something that is very difficult. We've not seen many guys go out to America and beat the home favorite. So, he's got his work cut out. But I just feel that Virgil Ortiz will have too much for him. And that, my friend, completes the boxing action. Very quickly before we go, it's been announced Regis Prograis is going to fight Zepeda. Regis is beyond happy, as he says, to get his shot. I'm very happy for him. And also news today, apparently it's a rumor, but Joe Joyce versus Joseph Parker is being looked at for Manchester for the September the 24th. My friend, it's been a long one. It's been our longest one. As I said, there was a lot of action to take place to look at. We didn't even talk about the shenanigans that's going on at the moment between Crawford and Spence. But there is some shenanigans going on right now.
Oh, that's not our business to talk about. So
yeah. So, but yeah, guys, thank you for sticking with us. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe. You can find Base here down in the ticker tape. Please do subscribe to all his socials and you will get great content because he's always putting out new stuff. As I said, look out for his picks on Friday. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. Hope you've enjoyed. That's me, Pugilist Boy. It's the same on all the platforms. And we'll see you again next week. Look out for the Undefeated pod on Thursday and Monday Night Smoke next Monday. Guys, enjoy. Last words?
Nope. Bless up, guys. Enjoy your night. Gonna eat some good food now.